In September of 2017, I had a miscarriage. It was my third pregnancy. My husband and I already had a boy and a girl. Losing our baby, even at the early stages, was heartbreaking. The loss of a pregnancy at any stage is devastating, and coping with pregnancy loss can be difficult and very different for each individual who's going through it, both mom and dad. In this video, I'm going to tell you about how I coped with miscarriage and baby loss. Welcome to Master of Chemomstry, where motherhood and science collide. My name is Joy, and I'm a mom and I'm a teacher, and my passion is to share my experiences to help others on their journey in motherhood, parenthood, and family life. I explained my miscarriage in a little bit more detail in this video here. I had a miscarriage and blamed myself, science of meiosis. And after this miscarriage occurred, I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. Like, how was I supposed to deal with things? And I knew how I felt. I was sad. I was disappointed. I felt like there was something I could have done to prevent it. But what I want to tell you about is what I ended up doing and events that just happened and were part of my life that were part of my story of how I coped with miscarriage. These aren't exactly tips, but I hope that either one, you can relate to them, or if you're someone who has not had a miscarriage and you are wondering, like, how do I help or understand how this process works for someone that you love, I hope that this gives you some insight, perspective, and understanding about what it's like. Number one, I let myself cry. I took a couple days off of work to allow the natural process of the miscarriage to occur, to let the tissue, the baby, and all the material leave my body. And there was pain associated with it because it's very similar to the labor and delivery, not as intense, of course, since it was early in pregnancy for me, around the 8 to 9 week mark. I also had to go in and get my blood checked for quite a few days in a row to determine that the HCG levels, the human chorionic gonadotropin levels, were decreasing appropriately, just to verify that I didn't need additional assistance in making sure all the tissue had left my body properly. And one of the hardest things was when my OBGYN said, if you were able to catch the sac where the fetal tissue is at, the baby, which was of course very, very small at that time, with that being early in pregnancy, then if you can get that to the lab, then some testing can be done on it to determine what happened. And I was able to get it, and I didn't know what to do, knowing that that was the baby that was growing inside of you. And then where do I put it? How do I transfer it? That was really difficult. So there's a lot of emotion. There was a lot of just trying to understand, a lot of just trying to make peace with something that had happened, and that was that. There was no way to change what the outcome already was. Number two, we put our house up for sale. The day after I had my miscarriage, my husband got the job offer that he accepted for a job he had applied for. So what did we do? We threw ourselves into cleaning up the yard, figuring out what we're going to throw away. What are we going to take with us? What do we still need to fix to make sure the house is in good condition when it's being shown? Just doing and not thinking seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Number three, I started looking for new houses. So we were going to be moving about 200 miles away, and we need a house to live in if we're going to be selling the one that we have. So I just put all of my focus and energy onto those MLS websites, research ready, putting all my analytical skills into figuring out where we were going to live next was a great way to avoid thinking about what had just happened. Number four, I got pregnant again in October. Now, it is not recommended to get pregnant immediately after you have a miscarriage. You're supposed to allow for 1 monthly natural cycle to occur. That is what my OBGYN told us. But what happened is we got pregnant without me having a period in between. Now, with this, it closed a chapter on the miscarriage without really giving us any time to process it or to come to what that grief meant on our own terms. Number 5, my husband worked 3 hours away at his new job in the new city, which we would eventually move to from November through February. So that meant during the week, he would come home on weekends, but during the week I was in charge of parenting, making sure the kids got where they needed to go, that they got to school and daycare and were read to and were fed. And trying to feed myself was really difficult at that time because I didn't like anything. My terrible morning sickness, nausea, food aversions. So if you're looking for a way to avoid thinking about grief and miscarriage, those things definitely focused me in a completely different area. Number 6, I started bleeding in December and thought I was having another miscarriage. When the blood came, I told my husband, I can't do this again. I can't go through another pregnancy to lose another one again. So I thought it was going to be over. We went to the ER and it turned out the baby was just fine. This pregnancy, this fourth pregnancy, was an absolute mess. This is just the first of many things. There's more to come here. I ended up being diagnosed at that time with what's called a subchorionic hemorrhage and a threatened miscarriage. Number 7, I contracted meningitis in January and then had multiple complications after the fact, after I was released from the hospital. So as I mentioned, my final pregnancy was a mess, so here is the second hit. I ended up having viral meningitis with bacterial meningitis suspected, but never was able to be confirmed via lab work. I was in the hospital for 5 days, and then afterward, in the going home aftermath, I ended up, one, with an allergic reaction to one of the antibiotics. It was a torturous skin rash. I don't recommend it. I also ended up with a blood clot in my arm from the IV line and the antibiotic I was being given that then lasted through the rest of the pregnancy that required me to be on a blood thinner until after delivery of my child. So again, because of all those different things that were happening, my mind was in all kinds of other places, kind of trying to stay alive, being concerned about this new pregnancy and wondering if my 14-week pregnancy at that time when I had the meningitis, was that pregnancy going to be maintained with this cocktail of drugs that were given to me. Number 8, we moved in February. This was only a few weeks after the whole meningitis hospital stay and complications in the weeks following. Moving is hard for children, and it was hard on our kids. Moving is hard on parents. It's hard when it's in the winter and there's lots of snow and your moving truck gets stuck on your road. It's difficult when your buyers of your house are impatient about how long it's taking to get all of your stuff out of your house. It's also quite a challenge when you sell your house on a Friday, you go to your parents and go to celebrate your brother's wedding, and you stay at their house with all of your stuff in a moving truck, and then Monday close on a house in the new town. So we were homeless without a home for 2 days in February. Number 9, I got kidney stones in April. I thought I was going into labor, but no, it was just angry, no being comfortable in any position for about 2 hours until they passed. Good times. Number 10, I had a healthy baby in June. You can tell there was probably a lot of fear that happened during that pregnancy, and she ended up being just fine with no health problems, and man, were we grateful for that. Number 11, I decided to start a YouTube channel and started writing and being able to process the miscarriage and all the following experiences of that next pregnancy that I had went through. I knew when I started writing all the different topics and stories of YouTube videos that I was going to make, that this one I really needed to look at carefully. And when I started writing, when I started putting all of what I felt onto paper, it really helped. And it helped my husband and I have conversations and also kind of to dig into what was going on and what did we need at the time. And there's not really anything we could have done differently, but what can we do about it now? We have friends who have had miscarriages before us and after us. And what we kind of realize with all of that is sometimes the grief that comes with it is just simmering on the back burner. And it's just waiting to be stirred. And we let ours sit on that back burner for a long time. And now we finally gave it the stir because we couldn't do it in that whirlwind of events and life happenings that happened after that. And at this point, I think we have come to accept the pregnancy loss that we experienced and are able to just feel a peace about it. We also learned a lot from it. We learned that we are going to have to go through hard things. We learned that by going through things that are difficult, that helps us help others. We also know, and we knew this, but it helped to enhance our understanding that having faith in Jesus is crucial. And we also learned that we are much stronger than we thought we were. If you have a miscarriage or pregnancy loss story that you would like to share, feel free to leave in the comments or to contact me. My email is in the About area of my channel page. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, as well as subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Our experiences can teach us so much, and I love sharing them with you. Thanks for watching.